Hola, welcome back to Hefa Talk. So today we have a special guest, and I'm super honored because the whole reason why I started Hefa Talk to begin with is because I really wanted to highlight everybody that I end up meeting on my journey. And to me, this is somebody who's super special. I got to meet her at an event for women, and I have been following her ever since. And I truly have been inspired. I definitely feel like I can relate to some of the things that she posts. So, without further ado, can you please introduce yourself?
Hi guys. Oh, thank you. That was so sweet. You're making me emotional. We haven't even started yet.
Oh, well,
Oh,
go
my
ahead.
name is Jeanette Pendas, and I live here in San Antonio, and I'm so excited to finally do this and do it with you. I'm excited.
I'm honored. I'm absolutely honored. Now, because I do get to have the pleasure of meeting you on social media and getting to see you, I feel like you are literally a jack of all trades. You do it all. How do you manage everything?
Um, I want to say by the grace of God, and then I have amazing support team. I cannot function without so many people around me. My team at work, not only do they help me at work, they help me in my own personal life. So yeah, it's a team.
Now, so for those that don't know, what exactly is it that you do?
So I work at Vada Chevrolet, and I started there almost 23 years ago. In January, it's going to be 23 years. And I work in the sales department, and I kind of do everything now. I've sold cars. I was in finance. I was the desk manager. So I've kind of had the opportunity to work in all the departments. So now I'm just kind of like, I call myself the janitor because I do everything, everything.
I love that. Now, you have been able to get a bunch of rewards also in your field. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So one that I just received that I've been trying to get was being, top all across the United States, top females in finance. And that one was real dear to my heart because, of course, not only is it challenging, you're going against all these women all across the United States, but I just felt like, you know, that was like the cherry on top for me. I've worked so hard and finally recognized for something like that just meant a lot.
That's amazing. And of course, being in a field where it's mainly men, what have been the challenges for you?
There's so many daily. I just feel like either it's coming from management, staff, customers, they feel like you're a female. You don't know. You're not qualified. You're just, they don't have you on the same level as them.
So, for anybody that is finding themselves in a field like that, what advice would you give them to push through those out like those bumps in their career to kind of take space and be like, no, even though I'm a woman, I'm qualified. I know what I'm talking about. How would you advise them?
I did. I kind of went into it when I went into finance. I didn't graduate high school. I had my son when I was very young. So I felt like anything I did, I had to put not 100%. I had to put 150%. So if we had a test in our finance class, you best believe being I was up studying, I stayed up late studying. I just wanted to excel in everything. And I would just gravitate to a lot of successful people. Like when I started selling cars, I gravitated towards the top sales representative, watched them, didn't ask questions, just watched everything, wrote down notes, and I just learned every day. Like I tell my staff now, every day I learn something new, every day.
I love that. Now, ta talk to me a little bit about being a young mom. How was that for you?
It was very challenging. It was challenging because I was by myself. Um, I didn't really have a support system. I live here in San Antonio. I don't have much family. My friends are my family, but I didn't really have the support when I got pregnant so young. I think I was like 16. But he's an amazing kid, and I'm so glad. Um, Everything happens for a reason. And I think that I know God placed him before me because that's what I needed to push me to excel in everything I do was for my kids.
That's beautiful. Now, I know I heard you say that you didn't have your high school diploma, but I actually see you are actually going to attend your GED, right? Tell me a little bit
Yeah.
about that and how has that been for you?
I have to say, you know, some of this stuff that I'm learning, I don't even use now in day-to-day basis. So it's kind of like, and then he says, they say it's a refresher. I'm like, refresher, I don't even remember doing any of this in school. So, but I feel like I wanted to do it for me. My son's going to be graduating at UTSA with his degree in accounting, and I'm so excited. I'm all emotional.
Mm.
Um, it means a lot. And I feel like if he's doing it, like I need to do it. I've never been a person to like start something and not finish it.
Mhm.
So even though it's so, because I feel like I have a very short attention span. And so like I'm in there and I feel like I'm lost. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is a lot. So it's a lot of studying. And, hopefully in about 3, 4 weeks, I can start taking the practice test. So yeah,
Well, hopefully that goes all good for you. I can't even imagine because I know I my kid he just started middle school and there's times where he asks me for help for homework and I'm like, I don't know. I don't remember none of this. So I can understand how that can feel a little overwhelming. But for anybody that is finding themselves wanting to go back to school and they feel like, no, I'm too old or it's not, I should probably just give up on that dream. What would you tell them?
you need to do it. You need to do it. You're never going to be too old. You're never. So my right hand at work, she's been with me. Oh, I don't want to cry. 10 years. And she started her journey a long time ago in the medical field. And then she had to stop. And then I got her. And then she's been with me ever since 10 years. And she's always wanted to be a nurse. Well, last year I told her, I was like, you need to do it. She's like, no, no, I'm not. I'm too old. I'm like, no, you need to do it. Do it. So she went back to school. She's going for her nursing. She's actually leaving me. And I'm so happy. Like, you're never going to be too old. I sit in that class and all those kids that are in there, even I feel like the professor is a little bit younger than me. But it doesn't even bother me. It doesn't at all.
I love that. I love that. And just hearing you talk about your team, like it sounds like you have pretty much been with them for so long. They're basically family. How would you say leadership and being in charge of them means to you?
I feel like they're my kids. I tell them all the time they're my children because all of them are younger than me. But I feel like I'm their coach to guide them, to help them, to see them just achieve so many goals. I've been able to see some of them buy houses, their kids graduate, them go on vacations that they've never been on, and that is just amazing.
That's beautiful. I think that's big that you're able to watch them hit these big milestones. And I think people sometimes forget that whenever you're in a job or in a career, you're spending so much time with your coworkers, they become your family and you hit all these goals together. So it's beautiful to see that you're like this with your team. Now, I did want to talk a little bit about your sobriety. To me, I think that's a big thing. One of the beautiful things that I have noticed on your social media. So one of the big things that I notice on your social media is your sobriety. And one of the things that have attracted me most, um, I want to say 2 years ago, I decided that I was going to start my sobriety. And unfortunately, I ended up giving up 8 months in. And every time I see you post it, I have like this tug at my heart that's like, you can do it again. You can do it again. And I want to talk a little bit about that because I'm sure a lot of people on your social media see that and probably feel the same way. So what is it that made you want to start your sobriety?
Well, I want to say about 8 years ago, I lost my father. My father was an alcoholic. He was an undercover alcoholic. So we didn't even know he had cirrhosis of the liver until it was too late. I had just went into finance and I would get home and he would be so out of it and I couldn't understand. And one day I had to call the EMS because he was like out cold. And they told me, your dad is just drunk. And I was like, what? My dad doesn't drink. And so they ended up leaving. And then I found how he hid all the liquor bottles. So having to go through and take care of my father and see him because we had to admit him and the aggression that how it's such an illness that I don't think people really realize when you're addicted to something and you take it away, it's like you're a different person. So I lost my dad to alcohol and I went spiral. I was undercover drinking and I wouldn't really drink in public, but I would come home and just down bottles. My sister got very concerned and she's like, look, Jeanette, you really need to get this together. And one of my friends invited me to church. And I was going to church still hungover, still with alcohol in my system. And that's when I go to CBC and Pastor Ed was talking about the disciples and how they would sit at the table and they would drink wine. And drinking is not bad, but when you overconsume, your thoughts and everything that comes into play after that, that's where it gets you. So I like from that day, I was like, you know what? I don't want to drink anymore. And then at the time, my other half, he was sober. So it kind of helped too. It helped the journey.
Now, for anybody that is struggling with that, what advice would you give them?
It's not easy. It's not, but you have to have a good support system. You have to have a circle that has the same vision as you, is going to support you. Like in the beginning, friends would still ask me, like, hey, you want to drink? Hey, you want to drink? Now it's like they already know. Hey, Jeanette, I got you a little canister of water. Hey, I'm getting you a bucket of sugar-free Red Bulls. You know, they know. But two, your circle has to be strong because if you're around alcohol and drinking and everything else, it's just gonna go right back to it.
Yes, I agree. I think that's very, amazing that you share because I know I struggle with it. I feel like it's like I try to convince myself like, oh, it's not that bad. But then I feel like, okay, it is though. You have to kind of get to that point where you're like, okay, I need to start over. And um I feel like for my journey, even though I gave up on it, it's like I just started, I want to say about 2 weeks ago. And it's like every time you post, I remind myself like one day that's what mine's gonna look like. Because you just posted your 9 years. And I'm like, I can't wait until I get there. And then I see all the amazing things that you do and all the things that you post.
5 years.
5 years? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm 5 years. Um, that you post, and to me, it's like I know that one day I'll get to that point, and it's like you don't just post about your sobriety, but you post about all the positive things. And I don't think I've ever seen you post anything negative. So, what do you practice in your life to maintain that positive attitude during difficult times?
I try to feed in every single morning. I wake up at the crack of dawn, like 3:30, 3:45. I do prayer meditation all the time. It helps me. Then I do cardio. During my cardio, I listen to podcasts that, or just anything motivational that's going to get me going. I feel like once you set in negative, that's what you're going to feed in is just negative. So no matter, like yesterday was a very hard day for me, very hard day. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to pull through. I'm just not going to post anything. I'm not going to let it upset me. I do bake. So sometimes when you have that to where you feel like mine was stress. So I would drink because of stress. So you have to find a different avenue to resort to, which I do the gym, but I felt like I needed something else. So then I started baking. When I'm baking, I'm like in complete zen. I don't notice anybody. I could be baking in the kitchen 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to be up in like 30 minutes, and I'm not even tired. So I think that helps with the journey also.
That's awesome. And honestly, I can't wait to try one of your pastries because I have seen some of the things that you post and I'm like, that's awesome. Now, how do you find the time to, be a working mom, being able to bake, going to the gym? Like, what does your routine look like?
It's very scary. It's very scary. I get up super early in the morning and get my day started. I do make breakfast for my son and dinner since I'm not here when he gets home. My two older ones don't live with me, they're already out. So I just have one. But then, I'm at work all day. And then lunch break, I don't sit down for lunch. I go, if I can leave for lunch, I go to the gym, just do a little bit more cardio, whatever I need to do. And then by the time I get home, it's like 8. Yeah.
You're a
My days go by super.
That's good though, because there's some people that their day seems like it takes forever and it's like a short day. So your day's full of activity. You are constantly moving, so that's great. Now I also have seen that you're talking about your fitness. You also have overcome a big fitness goal. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. So that's probably one of my most biggest accomplishments that I've ever done, even in my career. I was in 2002. I was about 200 and I want to say 70, 75 pounds. Um, I wasn't healthy. I didn't even realize I was not healthy until I went to the doctor for my checkup. And the doctor told me, and he looked me in the face and he's like, Jeanette, if you do not start eating correctly, you're not going to be able to see your son graduate. So you decide what you want. And man, that was like rude awakening for me. Um, I wasn't even able to walk a mile because I was so out of breath. You know, um, I wore like a size 22. Um, I had to stop drinking soda, and that was hard for me. I felt like I was feeding it after day one. I was like, I was like, I need a Coke. Just baby steps. And, at the time I was a single mom, not making much money. So it's like I couldn't really have the option of getting a gym membership or, buying certain things to help me lose weight. So I kind of had to do it like old school and just walk outside of the park and try to cook and eliminate a lot of stuff that was unhealthy for me.
Now, for your first couple of months in your fitness journey, what made you like kind of fall into that mindset of like, no, I have to go work out. I have to go to the gym. I have to like, what was it for you that made you get up and do it?
When I started losing weight, I felt like I had confidence. Growing up, I got made fun of a lot. My dad was a single father with all these kids. He had like five, six kids. So we didn't really have much money, but I was overweight and it was hard growing up, getting bullied and didn't really have much friends. And so when I started losing weight and I started getting confidence, that was like on another level. I was like, okay, I like this. I like this.
That's cool. What are your hopes and your aspirations for the future, and how do you maintain positivity towards your goals?
My hopes for the future is one day probably have my own little business, just helping people succeed in many different things. Um, so that's a huge goal for me. Uh, I stay positive and I try and do my best. There's times when, my Puerto Rican side gets out and my Cuban side, and I'm a little feisty, and I just keep to myself. I won't talk to nobody. I kind of just shelter myself, and I do a lot of prayer. Um, I read a lot. I just, I feel like if you feed your mind positive, if you're around people that just bring you positive, then that's what you're gonna feed into. Um, I don't one set off for me is like when I first meet somebody and if they're negative or speaking about somebody negative, you lost me. I'm done. I'm done with the conversation because I feel like my aura has to be nothing but positive. That's what I need.
Now, I love that you talk about God, and I actually recently saw a post that you posted about somebody on your team that went to go get baptized. Now, I think to me, it's a beautiful thing when I see people on social media bringing people closer to God. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yes. So, I'm always trying to bring everybody to church with me. And so I was asking her, she's my right hand. And I'm like, hey, you want to go to church with me? She's like, no, the last time I went to church, I didn't have a good experience. I was like, okay. And so then a couple days passed by. I'm like, hey, we're going to have this thing at my church. Do you want to go? It was like 6 months of asking her. And she was like, no, no, no. One day she was like, hey, can me and Ruben, her husband, can we go to church with you? And I'm like, yeah, you want to go to church with me? I was so excited. So she went with me and she was going. And then she decided, she's like, this is a whole nother experience. And I'm like, right, you can go to church. Sometimes, like I said, I have a short attention span. Where I go, he breaks it down. So, yes, he reads from the Bible, but he puts it in our terminology where we can understand it. So half of the time you're like, wait, what? Service is already over? Like you don't feel it because you understand it. So to me, comprehension, I need that. And so when she went, she's just like, I'm in awe. So when she wanted to get baptized, she was like, hey, I've been thinking about getting baptized. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah. So, man, that was such a special moment. And they still to this day, they still go to CBC.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Now, tell me, what is one big thing that God blessed you with this year?
He blessed me with the courage to say no. I think I needed that because I tend to want to be there for everyone. And sometimes it's very draining. And I've never been the type. My sister always tells me, you should like just, you have to say no, especially when it comes to my job. I don't really have a lot of time off. And um, I've been putting my phone on do not disturb when I leave. Usually I'm working and I could never say no before. And this year I've just got the strength to say no and just build my happiness.
I love that. Now, I know that you said you love to read books. What is one book that changed your life that you would recommend for somebody to read?
I feel like one book that was gifted to me, I actually have it next to me. It's 100 Days to Brave. Okay. And this book, I feel like when I'm down, when I'm having a moment, I can just open up a page and it's like, I feel like that was meant for me. I don't know if you ever felt like that. When you read something, you're like, man, that's meant for me. Every time I open up that book, something in there was meant for me. So um, it's it was gifted to me by my this who gave me that book. I think it was one of my staff. But it's just amazing. So I feel like having a lot of meditation books and books next to you all the time. I have them in my truck. So that way when I have a moment, I just like, okay, I need to open this book. And whatever is there, I'm gonna read it.
That's awesome. I'm definitely gonna start doing that, writing around with books. Now, you are a single mom. I want to talk a little bit about, that journey for you. What is one of the things that you wish that your kids can take from you the most?
And take from me. Um, I just want them to be able to live life, um, work hard, which both of my kids, the older ones, they work, they go to school. Um, but I really want them to just live the life too. I feel like I'm barely doing that now. So I'm a little bit late to the party, but I tell them now, I'm like, okay, put school aside. Because my son, he's like drilled in. No, I'm going to graduate. I need to do this. I'm like, you need a break. You need a break. So just work hard and enjoy life.
I love that. Now, tell me a little bit about what life quote you live by and you would love to share with us.
One thing I constantly say to everyone and to myself, everything, there's a reason for everything. God has his reasons. We may not understand at this moment, but there's a reason for everything. And I live by that because there's times this year has been super hard for me, from losing my 7 year relationship, to having to move again, starting a new life. It's been so difficult. And I asked myself, I'm like, why me? Like, I feel like I'm a good catch, like, why do I have to like go through this? But I have to tell myself, God has his reasons we may not understand at this moment. And now I'm barely understanding. I'm barely seeing why he's putting me through these certain situations.
Now, That must be very difficult, to lose a 7 year relationship. Now, when you find yourself in those dark days, what gets you out of that, snaps you out of that to keep pushing through your day?
I have to have a meltdown. I'm not gonna lie. I need to cry it out. I'm a crier. So when I do have those days that are really, really bad, I just have to pull myself aside, either go to my truck, go to the restroom, and just let it out. And then I remember my whys. Why did you get up this morning? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? Who is depending on you? Who, you know, who do you have at home? And then I just wipe my face, I go back in and I do it all over again. So yeah, that's what I do. But I do cry. I'm a crier.
That that's good because I feel like a lot of us tend to just try to suppress that, and it's actually good to cry. It's good to let it out. Now, of course, social media, we get to post all the beautiful things, we get to post all our accomplishments, but sometimes people don't really get to see the real us. So I always like to ask, is there something about yourself that you don't share on social media that you would love people to understand about you?
Um, I don't think I think most people know. Um, I just I've worked hard for everything I've had. I got kicked out when I was very young. Um, my dad didn't really see me having a child and not joining the Navy as appropriate. So I've struggled and I understand how it is to not have anything at all. Like I pawned all my jewelry, like my baptismal jewelry, everything. I don't have anything, just to provide for my son. So I don't think people really see that about me. They just see, Jeanette, she works, she travels, but they don't really know the gist of where I actually came from.
No, I think that's safe to say that a lot of people don't really comprehend sometimes that people do struggle, and people, it doesn't take just one overnight success and then boom, you're here. So it's great to know that, you have overcome so much to be where you're at, and that you're successful, you're loved, that you share love and you love on other people. Now, is there anything else that you would want to share with listeners? Because I'm sure there's going to be some people that are waiting to hear this episode that want to be inspired.
Well, I know one question you had on there, and man, that really touched me. I believe it was the one where what life experience did you have that changed it, your insight to life? Or I
Hmm.
think it was some.
So what is the most what was it? What is the most significant challenge you faced that you have managed to stay positive through in life? Was it that one?
I think it was another one. It was a little bit after that, but one day when my son was real little, I only had one at the time. And he didn't really ask for a lot of stuff because he knew mom didn't really have a lot of money. But we went to HEB and he was looking at the chicken and he tells me, he's like, Mom, you think we can get chicken this week? Man, that hurt me because I could not afford to buy a pack of chicken for my son. I was like, no, daddy, not this week. I was like, we're gonna get some ramen. He's like, he looked at me. Okay, mom, next time, next time. My oldest, man, that kid, he is the most humble kid ever. He would never even like when we get to the checkout lane, and you know how kids would ask for stuff there. he would put his hands behind his back and he would just look, wouldn't even ask because he knew it was so hard for mom. But that moment right there, I was like, I'm not going to live like this. And from that moment, that's when I went and I was good. I applied at Vada. Like I was like, I need to do something with my life for my kid. And I will never, ever, my refrigerator is always stocked because I'm like, my kids need food. I'm like, but that moment, not being able to even buy chicken for my son, that was so turning for me.
Oh, you have me in tears. Like I want to hug you because from experience, um, I know how that is. I have immigrant parents and there was times where they struggled and I see them now and how successful they were, how much love they poured into us. And like I'm sure your son looks at you and is like thankful and is grateful for everything. And so it's very humbling to know and very humbling to see that that moment for you was like, no, I'm gonna change my life and look at you. Look at you now. Um Now, where can people go and find you on social media? Where can people go buy a car? Can you let them know where they can find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. I believe my name is um Jen and then Net. And then I work at Vada Chevrolet on the south side of town. So I work with all different types of credit. So even no socials, come see me.
Yeah, so you guys heard it here. Um, I just want to say thank you so much for, allowing me to sit here and pick your brain and get to know you a little better. I truly have so much respect for you. I've seen you on social media and I don't think you realize just some of your posts sometimes how it does impact somebody else that's watching. From your Bible quotes in the morning, from your workouts, like everything is very inspiring and it does impact people. So I just wanted to let you know that.
Completely honored. I'm glad you were the first person I was able to do this with. Um, because I've been asked and I was like, no, I didn't feel comfortable. So when you approached me, I was like, you know what? With her, yes, yes.
Yes,
So
and
thank
I'm thankful and I definitely would love to have you back. I think that your story is beautiful and I'm sure there's so much more that we can sit here and talk about.
Of course. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.